When you travel alone, you learn to read cities like faces. Some are warm and open. Others keep secrets in their teeth. Tokyo was the second kind. Beautiful, yes, but cold in the bones, especially at night, and nowhere felt colder than Shinjuku. At 3 a.m., after the trains stop running and the neon starts to flicker. I wasn't supposed to stay in the Capsule Hotel. It was just a backup plan. Cheap, quiet, forgettable. But when the bar I was in kicked me out early and the streets felt wrong, I walked until I found the blinking red sign. Sleeped, clean, safe, 99 capsules. No receptionist. Just a touch screen and soft jazz playing from unseen speakers. I chose Capsule 66. Didn't think twice. The hallway smelled like plastic and wet cloth. Every pod looked the same, white, glowing from within like hospital walls. Mine was halfway down the 6th floor. Pod 66. The number glitched once on the panel before stabilizing. I noticed it, then forgot. I crawled in, pulled the door shut behind me. Silence, almost peace, until I looked up and saw the mirror. It was mounted on the ceiling, rectangular, angled just right to show your entire body as you lay down. Probably for makeup, or for people who hate forgetting what they look like. But something about it felt off, not broken, not dirty, just wrong. I raised my hand. The reflection did the same, but a fraction too slow, a subtle delay, like zoom lag. I blinked, it blinked back, but late. I laughed it off. Jet lag, whiskey, bad lighting. But that night, as I tried to sleep, I couldn't stop looking at it. And then it looked back. At 2:46 a.m., I woke up in a sweat. The mirror was fogged, even though the pod wasn't hot, and there was something behind me in the reflection. I sat up, turned around. Nothing. I looked back at the mirror. The fog had cleared, and I swear to God, for 1 second, just one, my reflection wasn't there. I laughed it off again, told myself it was sleep paralysis or a waking dream. But part of me knew deep down that something had moved. Something had watched. And as I lay back down, I noticed something new etched in faint lettering on the frame of the mirror. Pod 66, reflection error. Report if image does not match subject. Asterisk. The next morning, I convinced myself it was nothing, just a glitch, a bad night. I even laughed about it over breakfast, alone, in a convenience store, chewing on cold egg sandwiches and scrolling through old Reddit threads about haunted hotels. In Tokyo, Capsule hotels weren't exactly luxury. They were transit spaces, meant to be passed through, not remembered. But Pod 66 was starting to feel different, not haunted, just watchful. That night, I brought my camera, a small mirrorless Sony. I used it for travel vlogs. I set it up in the corner of the pod, facing me, and the ceiling mirror, just in case. At 11:45 p.m., I turned off the lights, closed the pod, stared at my own reflection for a long time. This time, the mirror didn't lag, but it felt like I was being studied, not mirrored. I woke up groggy. Light was bleeding through the curtain. I reached for the camera. The battery was drained, which didn't make sense. It was plugged in. I played the footage anyway, scrubbing through hours of stillness, until 3:09 a.m. That's when I moved. Except I didn't remember moving. I sat up, eyes closed, then turned to the mirror and smiled. But it wasn't my smile. It was stretched, too wide, like someone trying to remember how to be human. Then I said something, softly, almost a whisper, in perfect Japanese. You forgot me. I paused the video, rewound, listened again. Same voice, same words, and I don't even speak Japanese. I spent the rest of the day in a fog. I walked through Shinjuku like I didn't exist. Part of the noise, part of the neon. I tried to forget, tried to explain it away. Sleepwalking, audio glitch, a bad dream. But when I came back that night, Pod 66 was waiting. My name was already checked in. The system said I'd reserved it for 3 more nights. I hadn't. I tried to ask the front desk. There was no one there, only jazz music and static. Back in the pod, the mirror looked cleaner than before. To clean, like it was expecting something. I pulled the curtain shut, pressed my forehead to the glass, watched the reflection do the same, and just for a second, I think it moved. Before I did, I told myself I wouldn't sleep. I brought coffee, energy drinks, a tiny flashlight I clipped to the pod wall. I even played white noise through my headphones, trying to drown out the silence. But around AM, I felt it again, the mirror watching. You don't notice it right away. It's like someone staring at you from across a subway platform. You don't see them, you just feel their eyes pressing into your skin. That's what it felt like. And when I looked up, he was smiling again. This time, he didn't wait for me to move. He raised his hand, pressed it to the inside of the glass. I hesitated and did the same, but the mirror wasn't cold. It was warm like skin. I pulled my hand back, heart pounding. My flashlight flickered, then died. I stared into the mirror, holding my breath, and then, for the first time, he spoke without moving his mouth. The voice didn't come from the glass. It came from inside my own head. You gave me your name. That's how the door opens. I shook my head. No, I didn't. I never said my name out loud. Then I remembered the check-in screen, the touch screen at the lobby, the name I typed. I crawled backward, slammed my hand on the emergency call button inside the pod. No sound. No response. I opened the curtain. The hallway was dark. Every other pod, silent, empty, like the building was hollow. But mine was humming, a low, buzzing sound like static under the skin. I grabbed my backpack and turned to leave, but in the reflection, I wasn't holding anything. My hands were empty, and I was still lying down. I turned back. The pod was empty, but the reflection was watching, smiling, holding my bag, and whispering something I couldn't hear until I pressed my ear to the mirror. You've already traded places, I screamed. I ran, down the corridor, down the stairwell, into the street. No one stopped me. No one noticed. Shinjuku pulsed around me, alive and uncaring. I booked a hotel across town, slept in a real bed, with no mirrors, but I didn't sleep well, because just before sunrise, I saw something in the TV screen's reflection. Me, lying in pod 66, still smiling. I wasn't supposed to go back. Every instinct told me to leave Tokyo, leave the country, burn my passport, change my name, erase everything. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. If that thing was still in there, wearing my face, then what? I stayed awake for 3 days in a capsule hotel across town. No mirrors, no reflections, just my own thoughts, which stopped sounding like mine. Every time I blinked, I'd see flashes, the inside of pod 66, the ceiling mirror, my reflection, grinning wide with my teeth, but not my eyes. I checked the footage again, every frame I remembered was gone. Replaced. Almost like the mirror wasn't just showing things. It was recording over them. On the 4th night, I went back. Sleep had still stood there. Same red sign, buzzing faintly. The touch screen blinked to life the moment I touched it. Welcome back, Evan. I didn't type anything, but it printed a card for pod 66. The lobby was dead silent. Jazz music still played, but now it was out of tune, slower. Wrong. I climbed the stairs. The hallway smelled like mildew and copper. The light above pod 66 flickered, but the pod itself was open, waiting. Inside, everything was just as I remembered, except the mirror. It wasn't mounted anymore. It was propped upright against the back wall of the pod, tilted slightly, facing me, and it was breathing. You know how a window shifts when there's wind outside? This was like that, but from inside the glass. I knelt down and looked into it. The reflection was perfect, to perfect. It blinked when I did, tilted its head in sync, mirrored my breath, but then it smiled, and I didn't. I never left, the reflection whispered. You did. I pressed my hand to the glass. It felt cold now, too cold. And then I saw something behind the reflection, a second face, twisted, watching, closer than it should be, and my reflection began to pull away deeper into the mirror, like it was sinking into dark water, leaving space for me. I screamed, pounded on the frame, but the glass started to ripple. The pod lights died. Everything went black, except for the reflection, which now stared back at me from deep within, like I was the one behind the glass. When I opened my eyes, I was lying, On the floor outside the pod, bleeding from the nose, the mirror was shattered. A piece of it lay beside me, and in that shard, for one brief second, I saw someone else's eye. Looking out. I left Tokyo the next morning. Or at least, I think I did. My passport still worked, my boarding pass scanned. But something about the way people looked at me, or didn't, made me feel blurred. Like I wasn't casting a shadow anymore. Back home, everything was off by 1 degree. My apartment looked the same, but my keys didn't quite fit. My coffee mug, the one I've used for years, felt heavier, colder, like it belonged to someone else. I tried calling friends, family. The calls went through, but their voices sounded distant, scripted. They called me Evan, but never asked how Japan was. Almost like they didn't know I'd gone. Almost like I never came back. 3 weeks passed. I stopped checking mirrors, but that didn't stop them from checking me. Reflections became unpredictable. In windows, phones, dark puddles. Sometimes they'd blink late, sometimes not at all. And once, in a subway mirror, I saw him again, the thing from Pod 66, wearing my clothes, holding my camera. Smiling. That night, I opened my laptop. The hard drive buzzed louder than usual. There was a new folder on my desktop. No name, just a glitchy icon. Inside, dozens of video clips, all from Tokyo. All of me. Sleeping, walking, smiling at mirrors, speaking to things that weren't there. In one clip, I stared into the camera and whispered, "We switch every time you look away." I shut the laptop. Then heard something move behind me. I turned and saw myself standing in the hallway mirror, not moving, just watching. I covered the mirror with a blanket, broke every reflective surface I could find. But no matter how careful I was, every screen, every glint, every shadow showed something else now. Not me. Not exactly. Like I was the copy, the echo, and he was the one walking free. There's a rumor online now, some forum buried deep, older than Reddit, older than the web. They talk about Pod 66. They say it was never meant to be part of the hotel. That it's older, deeper, that it connects to a place beneath the city, a kind of mirror Tokyo. And that once it knows your name, it keeps a version of you. Just in case. I don't leave my apartment anymore. I've unplugged every device, covered every screen, burned every photo of myself. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear jazz music playing faintly through the walls. And when I blink too long, I catch myself blinking back.